live. How's it going, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here, and we're back at it with our latest pregame edition of the New York Mets show here, as the Mets are kick-starting a 3-game set in chilly, windy, frigid Minneapolis, Minnesota to face those Minnesota Twins. How you doing, everybody? We're back at it with our latest pregame show, as we're going to deep dive everything that you need to know leading into tonight's Game 1 matchup between the Mets and the Twins there in Minnie. We're going to take a look at the lineups, as you guys can see beside me, what's working in the Mets' favor, what's working in the Twins' favor, and ultimately, what are some key takeaways that we can break down and get into that could favor the Mets in this Game 1 matchup and this series as a whole, as this is the latest series that the Mets are trying to win, and if they do get a chance to do exactly that with hopefully 2 out of 3 victories at minimum, that they will have secured their 5th straight series victory here this season. That would be tremendous. Hopefully they get there, but let's get into everything that you guys need to know in this Game 1 matchup between the Mets and the Twins, and I'm going to do a quick roll call to everyone first chiming in live on a replay. How you doing, everybody? Happy to have you guys in here. We got my man Shrek's in here, great member as always. We got my man Steve Long, great member. How are you? Stony, who just became a member again. Thank you so much for that, Stony. Happy to have you in here. Nolan, how are you, brother? Was absolutely fantastic chopping up with you this past Wednesday. That's right, Nolan. I'm actually so happy that you said that, Nolan, because I remember our interaction, but I didn't exactly realize who you were as a member in the chat. I know exactly who you are, and the Josh Allen PFP, if that's who it is, if I'm not mistaken, that makes it a lot easier. So awesome to meet you. It was an absolute blast, and I cannot wait to be back at Citi Field. All I hope is that the next time I'm there, the Mets don't have a snooze fest the way that they did offensively, and that 5-0 loss there against the Marlins. How are we doing, PK Medina? Wardy, LGM25, LGM forever, baby. Ryan, great member. Alberto, great member. Nadine, how are you? Long-time follower. Maddie boy, how you doing? Stanley, how are you? We got all of our awesome followers in here. James, great member. Going down the list here even more. Fred, how you doing? Going down here. Brandon, great member. Thank you, guys. Come one, come all. Let's break it down. Brandon, I know you're late. I was a couple minutes late to the party like I usually am, so I apologize for that. But again, I appreciate everyone being in here, baby. Let's break down what you guys need to know looking ahead into this matchup between the Mets and the Twins. But before I do that, I do want to give a quick shout out to my amazing friends and sponsor here at BetUS TV, folks, because they have you covered with all the latest picks and lines and odds. Trust me, they have you covered. And as you guys see beside me right now, they have a really interesting prop that I want to share, because as things currently stand per BetUS TV, Juan Soto is at plus 1,000 to win the National League MVP this year, and Pete Alonso's at plus 2,000. Now, granted, I understand a lot of things need to go right in Pete's favor outside of what we've gotten so far this year in order to really have him that discussion. And you can make the rightful argument that someone like Francisco Lindor is probably more of a likelihood to win MVP than Alonso as the season will continue on. But no denying how great of a start to the season Alonso's had, and we know Soto will be Juan Soto, even if we haven't gotten much of the power yet to this point. So if you guys would love to hammer a biased bet, whether that's going to be your awesome friends, not awesome friends, but rather whether that's going to be Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, or somewhere else there that you have an idea as to who you're going to choose for your NL MVP pick, shout out BetUS TV that has us covered again with the latest odds, lines, and picks as always. That had me pretty pumped up. Juan Soto, that's not surprising, but Pete Alonso plus 2,000, that could be some interesting money to play with should you guys dabble and do so. Again, everyone, make sure you guys are responsible when it comes to that space, but I did want to throw that out there to each and every one of you, because I did find it interesting that there's a 1,000 gap from Alonso to Soto. I know we're not supposed to buy in completely to early results, but no denying that Alonso has been the Mets' best player so far this season, right? Let's see in here. Wardy, I say needs to be the you need me to be the starting second baseman and hit leadoff. Or you're talking about Acuna. That I was gonna say. If you want me to lead off, the only thing that I could give you is a Michael Conforto lean in with my elbow to get a hit by pitch, and then try to steal a bag. Outside of that, you're not getting anything productive from your guy Wardy here. But Acuna, here's the thing. If Acuna isn't gonna bat leadoff, what's the next best thing? It's batting ninth, and that's what he is today. And I'm really, really happy with this Mets lineup. I just want to kiss Carlos Mendoza on the head, like, I'm proud of you. Good job, my man. This is what I want in today's lineup. Nothing personal against Beatty, but even after Beatty's triple yesterday, unless they were going to have Vientos back at DH for a second straight game, which I knew they weren't doing, I really want Acuna to get that second base start. I feel he's most deserving there, and we broke that down in our video that dropped earlier this morning in our latest Big Mets update segment, so check that out in case you guys haven't already. We got our guys in here. D-back, great member as always. I'm sorry I didn't see you at the Marlins game. I wandered around center field bridge area around 7th, but no luck. Hopefully next time. Oh, D-back, I'm sorry we weren't able to connect, my friend. I was there during the 7th inning, but I think where you might have had an issue is maybe you were hanging more around the bridge. I was more kind of smack dab dead center field, where if I look to my right, we have Shake Shack not far from me, and if I look to my left, I had more of the I don't even know what to call them, but just one of their drink stations where they had Coors and they had liquor and stuff like that. I was just smack dab on the center field concourse, and that's what I typically do when I attend games. Just food for thought for any Mets fan that wants to ever link up with me at a Mets game. If, say, you don't run into me just walking around and you can't find the short schmuck that is me, second best thing to do is to probably meet up with me during the 7th inning. I usually try to do that 6th or 7th inning. I try to commit to do a full inning there in the outfield concourse. But as we continue on, everybody, let's get on to all the stuff that you guys got from me in the chat right now, along with what we have in our lap. So without further ado, let's begin here with the New York Mets lap, and then we'll expand on the Twins. We're going to switch it up this time. When do I think Ronnie will come up? Fun fact that you say that, we do have a Ronnie Mauricio update to share with you all, and I will reiterate that in our video that drops in the AM tomorrow. But Ronnie will be back in game action as soon as tomorrow, everybody. His rehab officially begins. He is officially getting in-game action beginning as soon as tomorrow in the minor leagues. That is beyond exciting. The same Ronnie Mauricio who didn't play at all that we saw in spring training. We also have solid updates on Sean Manaea, as thankfully his latest MRI showed that it's improving. So he's throwing on flat ground like from 60... I don't know exactly from how far out, but I do know that they're taking it slow when Manaea's ramp up to make sure he doesn't have a setback the way they did already with the oblique. And Jose Siri will receive an MRI today, and we'll have a decision on him making the injured list or not by the game's conclusion. I'd imagine that he will be placed on the injured list, and I was actually surprised that didn't happen yet. I thought we were going to find that out pregame today, but Mendoza is stretching it out a bit, so the Mets are clearly trying to avoid Siri being placed on the IL. But they are going to send him to further imaging because he has been absolutely beat up. So not happy at all with what he's been seeing there. Except for one URI Clover 15th with against the Rays in June. That is true, Steve. That is 100% true. Well, I will roam around at least one of those innings. Otherwise, you're 100% right. Am I concerned about Vientos' struggles? We'll get to Vientos in a second. I'll answer more of your guys' comments here in a minute. Let's start with this Mets slap, as you guys see beside me. It is as follows. Batting leadoff for your New York Metropolitans here in Game 1 of a 3-game set of Minneapolis, Minnesota, is Mr. Francisco, Mr. Smile Lindor with a .619 OPS on the year. Batting second is the one and only, the man that we just hope to see more power out of, and that is Juan Soto with a just under 800 OPS in right field. Batting third is the best player for the Mets so far this season. He comes in at 6'4", over 200 pounds. I don't know exactly how much Pete weighs, so I don't want to label something wrongly here. And he is, without question, the polar bear. Our Big Me Pete himself, and the polar bear Pete Alonso, with over 1,000 OPS, commanding first base. Batting fourth for the Mets is Brandon Nimmo, batting there with a .777 OPS, coming off of a strong series against the A's with 2 home runs, a double, multiple RBIs, not too much to complain about outside of some unfortunate outs with runners in scoring position, but Nimmo is just one of many in the Mets lineup that have faltered in that category. Batting fifth is Mark Vientos, who's back at the hot corner after a solid day at the plate yesterday with an RBI double in the gap, an RBI walk. Vientos at DH back to the hot corner today, batting fifth with a .439 OPS on the season. Batting sixth, who has not been in the Mets lineup in a hot minute, haven't seen Jesse what feels like in days now. Winker back in the DH spot there after he had a little bit, I think it was his back barking or something along those lines. I know he was just slightly banged up, which went in hand with why Marte was getting more of the consistent DH reps this past series outside of Vientos. But Winker's back in there with a just under 700 OPS commanding DH. Batting seventh for the Mets is Luis Torrens with a just under 1,000 OPS at the catcher spot. Why? Because Luis Torrens is nothing short of an absolute dog. That's why. Buddy went 3 for 3 yesterday. Opposite field single. Opposite field RBI, dead center, RBI ground rule double. Granted, I know Seth Brown, who hadn't played center field since 2022, helped us there, but still a tremendous game for Terrence and a great game call too, as Senga went 7 shutty, baby. Batting 8th is Tyrone Taylor, who recorded his first extra base hit this past day that we saw, which was a triple that we saw towards the end of the ball game. 435 OPS on the season, commanding center. And batting 9th, a man that I have reiterated over the past number of days I want to see get more consistent second base reps, and thankfully it appears that Carlos Mendoza is starting to listen to me. Acuna's batting 9th there with a 576 OPS at second base, and that is what we have for the Mets lineup. And your starter, towing the rubber at over 6'6", is Mr. Clay Holmes with a 4.3 ERA and a 4.05 expected ERA so far this season. We will get some more of your comments here in the chat shortly, everybody. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button as you first chime in as we're breaking down all the latest in Mets land for our latest official WardyNYM pregame show presented by our awesome friends at BetUS TV and SeatGeek. If you guys haven't used Wardy's promo code SeatGeek, please use it if you're going to be going for any Mets tickets in the near future. Whether you're going for hockey, whether you're going for basketball, with playoffs right around the corner. Shout out my Knicks. If you know, you know. For whatever you need on the ticketing space, SeatGeek has you covered with over 70,000 active events for you to choose from. And what our awesome promo code WARDY10 linked down below. So if you click and have the app downloaded, it's hyperlinked. It's automatically added to your account to 10% off your next purchase for whatever you want to purchase, guys. Check out SeatGeek. We're trying to have them inked as a full sponsor all year long. And it's thanks to your amazing support, guys, as I'll be completely transparent. Something that you will not hear from many creators is what I'm about to tell you. I had my latest briefing with SeatGeek over the past couple of days, and the turnout throughout our first month or so has been really good. They have been very happy with what we have done, and there has been definitely a good amount of users and followers on the platform here that went out of their way to use their link and use my promo code WARDY10. That's huge because that is immediate, not only a way to fully support the channel when it comes to income, but it's a sponsor that we want here consistently because they make endless sense for what we do. I've been using SeatGeek going back to, I don't even know the first time I started using SeatGeek, 16, 17 years of age. I'm turning 25 at the end of the summer. So for some context, my favorite ticketing app, and I would love to have them here all year long. So guys, continue to support the way that you have, and thank you so much in advance for doing exactly that. Things have been looking good. Things have also been looking good with Mando. Things have been looking good with BetUS TV. Pretty much everyone that you've been seeing as a reoccurring sponsor here as of late, things have been thriving on the platform. So I want to sincerely thank each and every one of you for making that happen, because without you guys, none of this is possible. I'm not able to do this as a full-time gig, doing it as consistently as I'm doing it. So again, thank you guys for the support there. But going on now from the Mets lineup, let's get on to what's happening here with the Minnesota Twins. And the Twins lineup, everybody, is as follows. Batting leadoff there at DH is Julian with a 769 OPS. Batting second is my man, Byron Buxton, who I love to absolute death. If you guys don't know my infatuation with Byron Buxton, then you're a newer follower on the platform, because I was advocating for a Byron Buxton trade the first 2 years of covering the Mets here on WardyNYM. The guy, I know it always comes down to health, but when he's healthy, he is just so much fun to watch. Byron Buxton, in my opinion, is one of the best pure talents in Major League Baseball, but sadly, because he hasn't been able to stay healthy, he's been limited in his ability to be that true stolen base threat, and we all know how much of a highlight reel he is as a true center fielder, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and it kills me because I'm obsessed with Byron Buxton. Easily one of my favorite players in the league, not on the Mets. Batting third, we're going to have Mr. Castro with a just under 700 OPS, commanding second base. Batting fourth is Wallner there in right field with 778 OPS, and batting fifth is a New York Met that was never a New York Met, but was a New York Met, and we all reacted to it. We were all emotional. Your guy Wardy was getting choked up almost on tears because of how much it felt like this was a monumental deal. Little did we know how much things would change with Juan Soto just a couple years later. Shout out to you, Stevie Cohen. But Correa batting fifth with a 488 OPS at shortstop. Off to the slow start per usual, but all it takes is a series against our Mets to see if that changes. Batting sixth is Larnick in left field with just under 500 OPS, like Correa. Batting seventh is Ty France, the latest batter that the Seattle Mariners gave up on probably a little too soon. France last year had some solid playing time that we saw when he was picked up by the Reds, and this year he's on the Minnesota Twins. He's off to a solid start with a right around a 300 average and an over 800 OPS at first base. Batting eighth is Lee at third base with a 666 OPS, so hope for his case that number changes ASAP. If you know, you know. And batting ninth is the veteran backstop in Christian Vasquez. Ultimately returns to Minnesota and has a 400 OPS there at catcher. And who is your starter? It's Mr. Joe Ryan, the most generic name imaginable, but Joe Ryan is far from a generic starter. He is one of the better ones that we've seen in the American League. Honestly, one of the more slept-on ones, in my opinion. I think the Twins have a very underrated starting pitching staff, but they were underwhelming last year with their production throughout the course of the 162. Joe Ryan, however, with a 2.65 year rate and a 3.2 expected year rate, is towing the rubber here against Clay Holmes. Michael, how are you, brother? Thank you so much for being in here, baby. Shay's doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Baby Eakin, happy to have you in here as well. I still don't understand why Nemo's hitting cleanup. I don't understand the fans that don't understand why Nemo's batting cleanup, because you may not agree with it, but there is simple logic behind it. Brandon Nimmo is no longer the Mets plate setter at the top of the lineup. Francisco Lindor is our leadoff hitter for the foreseeable future. Brandon Nimmo has 30 home run potential power. Why not have Brandon Nimmo bat between 4th and 5th where it makes most sense for him? I understand the critiques with Nimmo when it comes with runners in scoring position this year. He has not been good. But the reason why I'm not going to go out of my way to rag on just him is because this is a universal issue for a Mets team that has the worst batting average with runners in scoring position, and very much so far away the worst in the National League with runners in scoring position with 2 out so far this season. So I understand the level of criticisms that come with Nimmo, but we also should pump the brakes for a guy that was one of our most productive hitters throughout this past series against the Athletics. I'm sorry, how many other guys were hitting 2 home runs in this series and had himself a multi-hit game yesterday, including another RBI if I'm not mistaken, or at least he got on base with a quality walk that led the Mets to scoring more runs from there. Nimmo, far from the Mets' issue right now. I understand criticisms to a degree, but he's going to be platooning between 4th and 5th pretty much all year long unless he completely nosedives and falls off a cliff. One of him or Vientos, and it'll be based on matchups. So again, because the Mets are facing a right-hander in Joe Ryan today, that is why you're going to have Mr. Brandon Nimmo batting 4th. If it was a southpaw, then Vientos would more than likely be batting 4th. Wardy questions the question. Absolutely. I 100% do. It's amazing how our record is 10-5. It makes no sense, Zach. It makes no sense. But here's where it does make sense. The Mets pitching staff has carried them to this point big time. Whether you think it makes sense or not, it has, and that's been awesome. And offensively, even when the Mets are still stranding 10+ on base each game, they're still driving in runs at a solid rate right now. So it's not even like, oh, they're not hitting at all. They are, and they're pouncing on defensive indifference by the opposing teams when things aren't going right, i.e. yesterday's game where the Athletics forgot how to play baseball in the 9th inning. There are various examples of why the Mets are where they are record-wise right now, but it also shows how impressive it is that the Mets are just one of 4 or 5 teams this year with a 10+ win record when they have not at all played remotely close to their ability and their potential. We can all agree that this Mets team on all full cylinders should absolutely curb stomp even as great of a run as the Mets had last year and the peak of summer. Just the thought of them getting on a roll greater than what they have to this point with Juan Soto, with Francisco Lindor, with Mark Vientos, with the DH position, with Nimmo heading for higher contact, great things are going to happen. Why isn't Bader in the lineup? Good question that I don't have an answer for regarding the Minnesota Twins. But I am happy to see Byron Buxton in there. I'd imagine that as long as Bader isn't injured, we are definitely going to see him in this series. And he's been off to a really, really good start this season. Harrison Bader is doing the Normalson Harrison Bader thing where he's like, again, acting like a man possessed the first couple weeks of the year, and then bam, he goes back to reality. He's off to a great start, though. Am I concerned about Vientos is what Braden asked earlier. Thank you for the follow-up on that, because, again, we can lose track when we're answering comments to 250+ people in the chat right now. But thank you guys kindly for smashing that like and subscribe button. As you chime in, make sure to help us get to 33,000 subscribers. We're like less than 400 away now, and we're giving away a Mets jersey of whatever player you want to one lucky subscriber, the same way that we gave away a Juan Soto jersey, not once but twice already this year, and a Juan Soto shirt jersey. Everyone that's won those have since secured those jerseys, and they've been very happy with it. So I'm happy to be doing these giveaways for our milestone goals here on the platform. Help us get there. But to answer about Vientos, I'm not overly concerned with Mark. I'm actually fairly encouraged from what we saw yesterday because Vientos' at-bats have not been terrible. Yes, he's had some ones where he's just chasing down away. He's looking silly. But I expect highs and lows of Mark this year after having a tremendous 2024 campaign. Just over 111 games, 27 home runs. Really, really good. One of the luckiest batters in baseball Talk about flipping the script. Since then, Vientos has been one of the most, if not the most unlucky hitter for the Mets this season when it comes to per BABIP. And we know that he's worked a lot of full counts. The difference has been, in a lot of those full counts, he's either worked to a walk or he struck out versus actually putting the ball in play. Yesterday was important because even though that I felt like everyone and their mother could tee off that bullpen of the Athletics and their 7-0 victory, or 8-0, my apologies, it doesn't change the fact that you still need to have quality at-bats. And Vientos barreled one really well that we saw, absolutely ripped that one in the gap to drive in a run, and had a quality walk to drive in a run as well. So Vientos, I'm not as concerned because unlike Beatty, who has no track record, for example, Vientos actually does. And even if Mark does not play consistently to the potential that he did last year, I do firmly and wholeheartedly believe that he will still be a 30-plus home run bat for the Mets this season. That hasn't wavered regardless on the lack of overall production so far throughout the first 2.5 weeks of the season. If we find ourselves in mid to late May and Vientos is clearly laboring both offensively and defensively, then we'll have a greater discussion and say, okay, what should the Mets do from here? Because here's the thing, even if Mark isn't playing his best right now, it's not like the Mets have an immediate solution there because they don't. They have a lot riding on Vientos to follow up what was a strong 2024, and naturally, you're going to have your highs and lows that come with it with a player that has lofty expectations for themselves, but also is trying to temper them with understanding on what the fans expect from him now versus him proving everyone wrong and blossoming with low expectations last year as a guy who didn't even crack the team out of camp. Baby King, thank you so much for the donation. Let's go, Mets fans. Let's go, baby. Happy to have you in here. Jacob Pertuzzi, how are you, my friend? Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you as always, Jacob. I know you've been a long-time follower here. Give me 1 second, everybody, as I'm trying to get this camera to focus. There we go. Also, everybody, I have some exciting news to share before we talk a bit more on this pitching matchup and what we like for Clay versus what we like for Ryan and some key takeaways in this one. I did want to share with each and every one of you something that is important, and it's twofold. But let's start here with the following. Folks, you've seen it before, but I will relay it again. We have another YouTube channel. It's called WardyMLB, and the only difference is that your guy Wardy pumps out MLB-wide content of discussion to have on this platform. And our latest video, thankfully, absolutely banged on meeting MLB's newest fraud and Jerkson profile of the Atlanta Braves. Check out that video in case you haven't. The other ones, I didn't hit the algo as well, but they made over time, especially my first video. I took pride on the injuries with pitchers, and that one only has 2K just because we just started a platform, but we're almost at 1,000, which is amazing. Presented by Stark Raving Sports, my awesome friends there who are tremendous MLB and sports-wide creators to almost 200,000 subscribers on their main platform. My guy Mike is doing a tremendous job on the editing front, and I'm doing my best on the talking head front. And we're dropping our latest video today, which has everything to do with Aaron Judge officially announced as the new captain for Team USA in next year's WBC. And I broke down not only the impact it has for Team USA going forward, but how Aaron Judge now has potential to rewrite the script with how fans perceive him, especially opposing fan point of view, as well as what he has been labeled as a non-playoff performer, a non-high leverage performer. He has a great opportunity to rewrite things, and I broke that down the best way I could in a less than 10-minute video that's dropping later on today. So be on the lookout for that, guys. Help us get a 1K for our next sub goal. Really does mean a lot. And the other key update I have is that, guys, we're in Playback. If you guys don't know the Playback app, Playback is a revolutionary sports app that gives you guys the ability to sign up by clicking the link down in the description right here, right now. Whenever you guys get a chance, go to playback.tv/WardyNYM, join in, and what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to make a free account. Then you will log in with your MLB TV subscription, should you have one, and you'll be able to watch the Mets game live in real time, even with GKR on the broadcast where you can test the audio levels, where I can either talk over them or you could have them talk over me, and then lower things when I have my reactions throughout the course of the game for our watch parties. And we're doing watch parties with Playback every single week throughout the course of the season, with our latest beginning this Thursday for Game 1 against the St. Louis Cardinals. Make sure you guys are on the lookout. That'll be starting right around 6:45 p.m. Eastern. Click the link down below. That way you guys can join, become a member to our over 200 plus members already in the Playback app. And we're going to be live both on the Playback app, where we're actually watching the Mets game live in real time, and it'll be simulcasted on YouTube with a scoreboard for you guys to check out and interact in the chat there. If, say, you don't have an MLB TV subscription, but you still want to hang out with Wardy throughout the entire course of a ball game as we share our play-by-play and our further reactions as Mets fans together. So be on the lookout. Next watch party in watch party show, watch party, Mets Cardinals, in the Playback app this Thursday, beginning right around 6:45 p.m. Eastern. Link down below for you guys to join in case you haven't already. But all right, enough on the tangents that are irrelevant to what we're talking about in today's show. So let me get back here to the pregame slide and let me answer what is a gifted membership by Alberto to D. Thank you so much for the gifted, Alberto. For those that don't know, gifted memberships means that one member is being beyond generous and sending a membership to other people here in the chat. So if you guys love to spread the wealth, spread the word on the WardyNYM platform and our memberships in particular, in which we have north of 200 strong right now, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys so much for that. Click the link down below the description to become a member today. That way you guys get exclusive perks like team-wide emojis that you utilize in our chat and our comments, exclusive shout-outs from yours truly every single show, and at minimum one show a month, if not more, of exclusive WardyNYM Q&A for just our members as I interact with each and every one of you. And that way I have more of that one-on-one with you guys. That way you guys can actually have your questions answered, because I know I get hundreds of questions every single week, and sadly I can't get to them all because I got a lot of things going on as a full-time dad and doing this full-time. So if you guys want to have your voice further heard, that's a great way to get involved by becoming a member today. So thank you guys for that. Alberto, thank you again for the gifted once more. That's absolutely fantastic. All right, guys, I want to talk about the following, everybody. Are we glazing Shohei Ohtani? It's a fair question, and that's why I made a video on it, MJ. Check that out in case you haven't already. But I digress. Let's now talk about what we have left and right here. Now, Joe Ryan is a very good pitcher. I do not think this is going to be an easy task for the Mets, and I have my level of concerns offensively that this could be a little bit of a snooze fest. And PB9, thank you for the kind words. Great member. We appreciate you. Eric Douglas, my man, great member here as well. You guys are awesome. I know that's going to be a really cold, frigid series here against the Minnesota Twins, which means there's a great reality that the Mets don't hit too much that we see in one or multiple of these games here against Minnesota. But there is something that I think that will go in their favor. It starts with having Luis Angel Acuna batting ninth. I am obsessed with him batting ninth. I love it. I think that's a perfect plate setter spot for him. All I need Acuna is to get on base once or twice today, and I have the confidence that he will be a run scored as long as they can continue the line from there. Because to go from Acuna potentially as a plate setter, either getting on via a bunt, getting on via a walk, getting on via a single or double, if a home run happens, awesome, but I'm not expecting it right away. Then you go back to the tippity top of the order for Lindor, Soto, and Alonso to handle a man with 98 sprint speed per baseball savant, rounding the bases to score all the way for home, the way that we saw Acuna did just a day ago there against these Athletics. I'm loving Luis Angel Acuna, that goes without saying. His defense has been superb. His base running has been electric. And his plate approach has been, to a degree, disciplined for a guy that actually knows what he's doing out there. Actually looks like he's taking MLB quality hacks. Can't say the same too much about Beatty and his play approach, with the exception of that triple that he had yesterday, which was a great step in the right direction for him. And I'm not denying that whatsoever, but still, Acuna has been the most deserving of the two, between the two, up until McNeil returns from injury in the next week and a half or so. And I know that we had people in the chat. Mothman, how you, baby? Happy to have you in here, Mothman. Everyone chatting in live on a replay. Thank you guys kindly for smashing that like and subscribe on, letting me know all your initial reactions and questions and thoughts that you may have here heading into game one against the Minnesota Twins. We will have pregame coverage for you guys tomorrow as well. There will probably be no pregame coverage for the series finale, just because it's a day game, and usually day games people care a lot less about doing pregame, and I have less time on my hands. But we will more than likely have a pre and a post game tomorrow as well, with Big Mets updates video probably dropping the AM like it just did today. That's usually what you guys can expect schedule wise as well throughout the week when it comes to post games. Video in the morning the next day as a recap and going over other miscellaneous topics, and then we of course will have our pregame and post game the following day, and just continue on the cycle throughout the entire week. But Acuna to be that plate setter is absolutely huge. And then you pair that with the entire lineup of what the Mets are doing right now. Luis Torrens is acting like a man possessed right now. I expect Torrens to have a good series. He's going to start at least 2 out of these 3 games, obviously. Leo, Broken Jester, great members in here. Happy to have you guys as always. Sean MD, how you doing, baby? JR, we got a lot of Mets fans hoping for a sweep, and I love that. And I want to hear from you guys actually in the chat right now, in the comments down below. What is your series prediction? I'm seeing a lot of sweeps, so already you guys think the brooms are going to break out. But do you guys think that A, the Mets are going to win or lose a series? And B, do you think the Mets are going to sweep or get swept? I would love to see how you guys feel in the chat right now. We do need production from second base. And I'm so glad that you said that, MJ, because that reared back in my initial point that I was trying to make on the second base front. up until McNeil comes back from injury, because, guys, Jeff had himself a 1-for-3 day at the plate yesterday in Port St. Lucie. He'll be back with the Mets in the next week and a half or so. And there's a great reality that Jeff could return the Mets as soon as this weekend, if not sometime next week. Should that be the case, the Mets will then have a hand force as to what they will do with one of Beatty and Acuna. And as things are currently aligned, everything is looking like Acuna will be the man to stay on this roster over Beatty. Now, the only gripe that I could possibly have with that being the case is as follows. Jeff McNeil comes back, he starts every single game, and Acuna doesn't sniff anything outside of coming in as a late game defensive replacement beginning in the 7th or 8th inning. That is what I don't want to see, because you're only going to hinder and hurt his development. And if David Stearns is going to hold true and stay true to really being the guy to say, hey, I want to make sure that these kids truly have a leash, but an opportunity where we're not stunning them by having them just ride the bench and that be that, where nothing good is going to happen. In the case of Acuna, why not platoon him and McNeil when Jeff returns? That's what I think the Mets should do based on matchups. Have Acuna get some starts, have Jeff get some starts, and get creative, okay? Maybe you want to give Nimmo an off day, right? Put Jeff in the left. Maybe you want to get creative and have Jeff start, but halfway through the game, you want to switch him to left, and then you want to bring in Acuna. And then maybe you shift Nimmo to center for a couple innings. Not that I love the idea of Nimmo in center, but especially with Jose Siri looking like he's going to hit the injured list by the day's end, and with Jose Azcar being the inevitable call for the Mets, it's not like we have the best quality at center field depth-wise, both offensively and defensively. Defense, I'm not too concerned, but offensively, it's clearly a glaring hole there. So the Mets want to maximize offensive output. That is one thing I would keep an eye out for, is to see not only Acuna staying on the roster, hopefully when McNeil returns, but also in how they toy with their playing time. Because I've said this for days now, and you guys know exactly how I feel about this, but Jeff profiles absolutely fantastic as a true utility man. I think he makes more sense in the utility role than anyone else currently on the Mets roster. Name me one Met player that is more versatile than Jeff McNeil on the team currently and fits the role in various areas, where if Jeff can sign up to coming off the bench halfway through the game at times, I really think that he could thrive. Because here's the thing. We all know Jeff isn't a power hitter. We know that he's trying to have more power in his bat. I'm sure he'll be utilizing torpedoes like everyone else and their mother to try to get more of that gap-to-gap ability. And he knows the money's there in power and slugging, and it's not there in contact. But at the same time, Jeff is a contact hitter. He's built his game off of contact hitting. And while you need to make adjustments throughout your career in order to stay up to date with today's game, McNeil, as a slap hitter, is perfectly fine if he's coming in and stepping up in key high-leverage spots halfway or towards the latter half of the game. Like, that is where I really think McNeil could thrive if he can get back to grinding and working those full 8, 9, 10 plus pitch at bats, where he really looks like he's dominating the strike zone. He's hacking away everything foul until he gets a meatball that he's looking for, or an off-speed or breaking pitch that he feels comfortable that he's able to hit for opposite field, to drive with power, what have you. Point is that is the exception to McNeil coming back and Acuna being on the roster. I think you need to make sure that you have a proper balance on playing time. If you just kick right to the curb, that being and Acuna on the bench for the majority of the time, it's going to hurt his development, and then before we know, he's going to be sent back down to AAA, and that be that. Tingus with a $2 holla. Thank you, Tingus. He says, keep Acuna, get rid of Beatty. I know that's the common consensus, and right now it's looking like it's going to be that way, barring changes. Can you make the same argument about Beatty? You don't want Beatty to not play, but I want Beatty to be sent down. That's what I want Beatty to do. Like, that's the thing here, because the Mets are toying right now between Beatty and Acuna on playing time, which I understand leading up to McNeil's arrival, his return, but there will not be a spot for Beatty then, as things currently stand. And furthermore, it's kind of redundant to have both Beatty and McNeil on this team, because they both profile as lefty bat second base options, but one actually is an MLB caliber bat, while the other is still trying to figure it out. Acuna presents, one, a right-handed bat, which is what you like to see in a platoon situation should he get split playing time at second base. You don't want to have a lefty-lefty platoon. That isn't going to work. And Acuna also has comfortability to handle other infield positions should the Mets have to put him there. Not that Beatty can either, because I know he can, but I have just as much confidence in Acuna, if not more defensively, than I do Beatty. So they're kind of 1A, 1B on that front. But the difference is that the plate approach is far superior than I think we've seen with Acuna to this point. I don't think we win this one tonight. We ain't really hitting. Acuna, Beatty, and Taylor are not hitting. I hope you're wrong, Jason, but I respect the fact that you're being more of, like, and your way a realist, you're just not getting your hopes up should the Mets bats not show out tonight, given the fact that it's going to be a cold, frigid night there in Minnesota. And I understand that wholeheartedly. Jacob, I know I'm one of the only opposing content creators you follow, and I appreciate you for that. Because again, you don't got to be a Mets fan to enjoy something about me. Now, I understand that enjoying Wardy means you got to be a real sicko, but I'm doing something right, obviously. So even for all the times I slander your Yanks, Jacob's always reeling back in and always wanting to chime in, and I appreciate that a lot about him. So, and I think that also says a lot about the platform that we built. I built a lot of good relationships online with opposing fans, as has been the case with a lot of you guys watching right now as Mets fans. And it's been really cool seeing that because of the interactions I've had with you guys and the live chat and comments in the past. That is what really reels you in to keep you not only wanting to be here, but actually going out of your way to seek the content. So appreciate you, Jacob, and everyone else, especially as a Mets fan, going out of their way to consume what we're doing here. But further reason as to why you got to check out Wardy MLB is I have you covered with MLB-wide content. We're coming out with a Yankee-related video today because it has to do with Aaron Judge. So make sure you're checking out, folks. That'll be dropping shortly after I'm done here with this live show. I'm actually going to double-check with the schedule here. Okay, fantastic. My DoorDash is less than 10 minutes away, baby, so we got some time to work with. All right, folks? I'm going to chop it up with you until I got to bounce in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So in the meantime, everybody, let's get into what has not been working for the Minnesota Twins this year, right? Let's get into it. Clay Holmes, my prediction on Clay today, I just want to see Clay give us 6 innings, all right? I'm dying to get 6 innings from Clay Holmes. If we can get 6 innings from Clay Holmes today against the Minnesota Twins team that fluctuates a lot with their offense, then I'm feeling damn good. What is the game temperature? Not ideal. It's like 40, 45, feels like 30 with the wind, and it's raining all around the ballpark right now. It's going to be a misty, cold, frigid night in many. And honestly, this is one of those games, no way. This isn't Mets related, but it's significant because of a man falling from grace as hard as he did. And honestly, one of the best things that the Mets did do was not signing him, something that I advocated heavily for a while. And I'm happy to be proven wrong, but also not happy that he's nosedived his career as quickly as he did. From Thomas Harding at MLB, covering the Rockies since 2000, tweeted the following. I'm hearing that the Rockies DH Chris Bryant has lumbar degenerative disc disease and will go to the 10-day IL. Not sure what the treatment plan is. Braxton Fulford will be added to AAA for the club. So this is an ideal. Pretty much it's the beginning of the end. I know we've already seen the beginning of the end when it comes to Chris Bryant, but he has a degenerative disc disease, and that is not going to bode well for him. Anytime that we've seen guys with these degenerative, I can't say the word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Anytime that we've seen athletes with these kind of diseases where they're not going to go away and they're going to be a recurring issue, it has almost 9.5 out of 10 times really been their demise. And I think of, sadly, David Wright right away with his spinal stenosis and his back, and knowing that it was never going to get better. You know, I know Mike Trout will always have back issues as well, so it pains me knowing that, like, we're never going to get a fully healthy season of Trout again. It's just always such a damn shame when you see guys get derailed as bad as they do because of injuries. So that is what's going on with Chris Bryant, and also took the bag because he knew it was an easy one to get there with the Rockies, and the Rockies are just such a stupid organization. The Rockies are such a stupid organization that after Daniel Bard had an all-star caliber year for them as a reliever, coming back into baseball, they decided to extend when he was like 39. Then he was out for the year close to an anxiety, which absolutely sucks as someone who suffers with anxiety. I know all about it. But they have no clue how to maximize on their ROI, nor do they know how to properly at all invest into players. Imagine giving Chris Bryant that contract. There was a reason that no one else was even sniffing that, especially the Rockies. D-Mac, who will get more reps, Alvy or Terrence? When Alvy returns, I think it'll be 60-40 in Alvy's favor. But if Terrenz's bat is still red hot upon Alvy's arrival, it's hard not to see there being a pretty balanced in playing time. But I think it will ultimately be 60-40 Alvy. Terrence knows that, but Terrence also has to die down on the offense before the Mets would really consider that because he's playing so good right now. Let me get back to the Twins before we wrap up the show because I want to get in what is working and not working with them so far this year. And let's take a look at this, everybody, because the Twins are like 5-10, 5-11 or so far this season. Not ideal. And offensively, they've definitely had their fair share of struggles that I'm breaking down right now. Let's look at the leaders, actually. If we look at teams 2025, let's go to our batting stance. Where do the Twins rank per Fangraphs right now? And the Minnesota Twins currently rank 24th in offense with .5 WAR that we're seeing, not ideal, a 208 team average, and an 80 WRC plus. So the Twins are batting as a collective group 20% below league average. In comparison to the Mets are batting 5% below league average right now with a 215 average and a 1.6 total WAR with their offense. So the Twins offense has clearly been their demise, and when Royce Lewis is obviously not healthy, that throws a huge wrench into things because they're three-headed monster, and Lewis, Buxton, and Correa are all tremendous when they're right, but the problem is they're almost never right. They can't stay healthy. They're doing their best Brooklyn Nets, KD, Harden, and Durant impression, where when they're together, they're fantastic, but you're lucky if you even get half a season them playing together healthy, because it just doesn't happen with this Twins team. So that is a clear bugaboo. That's going to be their demise, and I hope that Clay Holmes can maximize and pounce on the lack of offense by this Twins team and give us 6 solid innings today, hopefully leading to a victory. Now the pitching end, how do the Twins rank collectively with their entire staff? Well, the Mets right now rank second with WAR tied with the Cincinnati Reds at 2.9 apiece. Very good. The Minnesota Twins rank 15th right now, 1.4 WAR, and their team ERA is 3.85. For context, the Mets still ranked top of the list by far at 2.3 on team ERA, with the Minnesota Twins on team ERA right now ranking, let's see where Minnesota is. They're probably not high. I can't imagine that they're too high. Yep, Minnesota is 16th in team ERA and 3.85. The Mets are number 1 at 2.3, with the Padres trailing them at 2.68. That is why the Mets are 10-5 to start the season, everybody. Their pitching has carried them the entire way. Our bullpen has been amazing so far this year. Who is my player of the game prediction? Good question, D. My player of the game prediction, when I look at this Mets lineup today, I'm going with my guy, Jesse Winker. Winker's back in the lineup today. I want Jesse to thrive. I could see Jesse having a good game, so I'm going to go with Jesse. Jesse Winker's my offensive player of the game. You guys let me know in the chat who you think is going to be your player of the game today on the offensive front. Watch out for Twins that are underperforming. Oh, yeah. No, I know. And we all know very well when it comes to underperformance as Mets fans. So I'm not just writing them off like they're not going to have a good game. They may very well have a very good game for the Mets here. For the Twins, rather, against our Mets. But it doesn't change the fact that I still feel confident as a Mets fan that they can get the job done. Love me some Terrens. Don't blame you, Alberto. He feels like an easy lock right now. Alonso's a great pick, too. I'm curious to see how the top of the lineup does in this frigid weather, and they're going to be able to thrive or not. I expect like 3 walks from Juan Soto and a single until he can show more of that home run ability. It all starts with Lindor, says Kevin in the chat. All this Lindor talk reminds me of missing Priest on a plane from last season. I don't know if you guys remember Priest on a plane, but he would go out of his way to rag on Lindor all year long, even when he was doing right, and it was a lot of fun to kind of have the discourse back and forth in the chat. I don't believe I've seen him so far in post games this year, and I wonder if he either was kicked before in the chat by Amon and I didn't know about, or if he just hasn't been around for whatever reason. So that just reminded me, where is Priest on a plane? If you guys have been a follower of the platform, go ahead and try to find our guy, Priest on a plane, because he was always in the chat last year, always chopping it up about Lindor in the worst way possible, but he was also pretty funny too. So it was fun discourse that we had in the chat, as long as he wasn't getting too crazy about it. But Giovanni, you remember. We all remember him too. So that is what I'm actually going to leave it with, everybody. That's going to do it for our latest pregame show, because we're already at almost the 45-minute mark, and the pregame should not be over an hour long. So we're going to wrap it up now. I'll be back live with each and every one of you directly after the conclusion of tonight's game, win, lose, or draw, so be on the lookout for that, and then I will see you all tonight for our latest post-game coverage. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this, everybody, and this is your guy, Wardy, signing out. Let's go Mets, baby. See you guys tonight. Have a great one.